Good morning, class. As you can see on the screen, we're going to talk about sampling method, which is the lecture 4 of our experimental psychology. So, for this particular topic, I only have 11 slides, wherein those slides are from our topics or discussion from psychological statistics from last semester. So I have a high expectation from you guys towards this lecture because we have tackled this already and we are able to apply this on your research study, a mini research study. So without further ado, let us just go on with this topic. Okay, so we're going to start with the basic concepts of sampling. What is sampling is all about. So number one, sampling is basically consists of obtaining information from only a part of a large group or population so as to infer about the whole population. So it's very easy, class. When we say sampling, it's like we're just going to get representative from the entire population to give questionnaires to conduct an interview. So we just have to make sure we just have to make sure that we're going to secure a sample which will represent the population. So we have to make sure that the sample that we're going to use can actually generalize the thoughts, the opinions, the behavior of a certain population. Let's say, class, for example, we have 100 participants. So we cannot really have that 100 participants to actually answer our questionnaire or to interview them one by one. So what are we going to do is to get at least the 30% of the entire population. So if that is 100, we're just going to ask 30 individuals to actually finish the questionnaires or conduct an interview with. Why do we have to get only a sample? It's because the advantages of something is actually to reduce cost. So imagine from 100 copies of questionnaires that you need to print, you're just going to cut it down from 100 to 30. So, makakatipid ka talaga. Cost effective siya if we're just going to get a sample. Greater speed because, again, instead of 100, you're just going to facilitate the test questionnaires for 30 people. Greater scope, greater generalization and improve accuracy. Why improve accuracy? It's because most of the researchers tends to get lazy and feel fatigue by analyzing too much questionnaires. So to cut the workload, we just have to analyze sample data. Number 4, the smaller size of the sample makes the supervision more effective. It's just like imagine facilitating a 10 pages questionnaire for 100 people. It's going to be chaotic and sometimes nakaka-nervous siya. It gives you anxiety as a researcher and as a facilitator. Whereas, if you're just going to facilitate a questionnaire for 30 people, it would give you comfort, ease, and also authority when talking with them. Moreover, it is important to note that the precision of the estimates obtained from certain types of samples can be estimated from the sample itself. The net effect of a sample survey as compared to a complete enumeration is often a more accurate answer achieved with fewer personnel and less work at a low cost. In a time to sum up number 3, you have the number 4, class. I know you understand it very well. Anyway, that's the basic concepts of sampling. Next, to start with, let's have a look on some basic terminology. We have to really define what is the meaning of the population, the sample, and sampling, because you're going to use this every time. Not only now, I told you during your statistics that um, that was just a start of you getting familiar with statistics terminologies. Now we're using it in experimental psychology, and next semester, I mean, next semester you're third year already, no? So next semester you're going to have your research, mini research, I think, or field methods in research, and then on your third year you're going to start doing your thesis. So anyway, what's the meaning of population, the sample, and then the sampling? Population is the collection of the elements which has some or the other characteristics in common. The subset of the population is what we call the sample. When you say subset, this is the part of the entire population. Sampling is actually the process of selecting a sample. It's like the sampling method, the sampling techniques. There are a lot of sampling techniques which are grouped into two categories as number 1, the probability sampling, and then number 2, the non-probability sampling. So what's the difference of probability and non-probability? It depends on your research. It depends on your research design, no? Where do we get the probability sampling? I could imagine you answering me like, yes, ma'am, probability sampling is actually used when you are having a quantitative research design, and then non-probability sampling is actually used when you have a qualitative research design, which is true. Probability sampling is considered and must utilize some form of random selection. In other words, researchers must set up some process or procedure that ensures with confidence that the different units in their sample population have equal probabilities of being chosen. In probability sampling, you have to make sure that each person in the population, even how impossible or even how small the chances that they are going to be selected is, you have to make sure that they will be having a chance pa din to be selected. Like for example, in a lotto, so kung 1 billion yung tumataya dyan sa lotto, kapag ikaw ay bumili ng ticket, you still have this probability of winning. Kahit na the proportion is actually 1 is to 1 billion or 1 over 1 billion. So yun. Next, when to use non-probability sample naman, no? Dito kasi, class, sa probability sampling, we are using some sort of system and then procedures which actually ginagamitan ng statistics, no? Nagme-measure tayo, nagka-calculate tayo. On the other hand, when are we going to use non-probability sample? So this type of sampling can be used when demonstrating that a particular trait exists in the population. When we have in our mind already whose participants are we going to get in our research, we use the non-probability sampling. No, alam na natin na ang kailangan nating i-target is matatanda, mga bata, babae, lalaki, mayayaman, mahihirap, so we use the non-probability sample. Number 2, it can also be used when the researcher aims to do a qualitative pilot or exploratory study. In qualitative study kasi, the main point of this research design is that you're going to conduct an in-depth interview or live experiences of your participants. So since you're going to conduct an in-depth interview, usually and precisely, you already have a specific characteristic of the respondents that you're going to get. Nasa isip nyo na nga, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, na kailangan matanda, bata, millennials, boomers. So kapag meron kayo noon, ibig sabihin, you can use the non-probability sample, the pilot. Again, ano yung pilot studying or pilot study? When we say pilot study, this is where you could actually practice facilitating your test questionnaires or test the validity and reliability of your test questionnaires. Like, practicein mo muna siya with the population which has the similar characteristic of your true population. For example, class, you wanted to conduct a study with second-year psychology students. So, bago ko kayo i-go, for example, you have to pilot study muna. Paano po yun? Yung questionnaires na gagamitin nyo, instead na pasagutan nyo sa taon yung population, which is the second year, what are you going to do is, you're going to have third-year psychology, fourth-year psychology, or first-year psychology to actually answer your questionnaire. So, kung ang kailangan nyo ay 100 students, so sa pilot study, pwede kayo magpasagot kahit 10 lang. Ano ang benefit or essence ng pilot study? So that you would know how much time it will take to finish your questionnaires, kung may mali ba na sa spelling, kung mahirap bang intindihan ng instruction. So, kapag gumagawa kayo ng pilot study, you can use non-probability sample. Okay? Next is the exploratory study. It can be used when randomization is impossible, like when the population is almost limitless. It can be used when the research does not aim to generate results that will be used to create generalizations pertaining to the entire population. So, mostly kasi sa qualitative study, they don't really need 1,100 population. Usually, it is less than 30 individuals, because the nature of the qualitative study is actually the live experiences or in-depth study. You could actually interview people more than 30, because magiging siya, what do you call this, too much for you to bear. Sobrang haba niya. So, hindi nyo na matatapos yung study nyo. Lastly, it is also useful when the researcher has limited budget, time, and workforce. So, these are the examples of probability sampling. We have the simple random, we have the stratified sampling, and then we have the systematic sampling. In simple random, every element has an equal chance of getting selected to be the part sample. It is used when we don't have any kind of prior information about the target population. Katulad ng sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, diba nakalagay when to use non-probability sampling. We use non-probability sampling when we have an idea about our respondents. Dito, sa probability sampling, which is simple random, kapag we don't have prior information about the target population, we tend to use this simple random sampling. For example, what is your feedback about COVID-19? Anyone could answer this. You don't care kung ang sasagot ba ay bata, matanda, babae, lalaki, affected or not. So, you are focused on getting your feedback as it is. So, kung sino lang yung makita mo sa daan, kunwari, reporter ka, nag-ambush interview ka, kung sino yung makausap mo, yun lang yung lalapitan mo, yun lang yung kukunan mo ng data or information. So, that is simple random sampling. Next is stratified sampling. This technique divides the elements of the population into small subgroups, which is called strata, based on the similarity. Okay, for example, you wanted to know ano yung mga characteristics what are the characteristics of individuals who are affected by COVID-19 in Metro Manila. So kapag sinabi nating stratified sampling, ilan ba ang city sa Metro Manila? Let's say, I'm not sure let's say merong 23 cities in Metro Manila. When you say stratified, you have to make sure that from all the 23 cities in Metro Manila, you get a representative from those 23. It doesn't matter na pantay-pantay sila ng number, like kailangan merong dalawa in all 23 cities, no? Pwedeng yung Muntinlupa merong 10, yung Pasay merong 1, tapos ano ba yung Pasig merong 1. So it doesn't matter the number. Ang nagmamatter dito is kahit merong isang representative, so that is stratified sampling. Yung systematic sampling, we create a list of every member of the population. From the list, we randomly select the first sample element from the first k elements on the population list. Thereafter, we select every kth element on the list. Ang systematic sampling is actually like the random sampling. It's just that more class yung systematic sampling because there is a system that we are using, like mas malinis siya in a way na okay, pumila muna kayong lahat. Okay, so yung lahat ng nakatapat sa number 1, we're just going to get you as participants, or kaya lahat ng number 2 kukunin ko, lahat ng number 3 kukunin ko. So in order to clear our knowledge about these 3 kinds of probability sampling, let's go on with the next slides. Class, yung unang slide, which is eto, that is an example actually of simple random sampling. It's like yung parang sa loto nga. So kung out of 1,000 kailangan mo ng 10, okay, dudukot ka lang, kukuha ka lang ng balls from this jar. So ang pinaka-importante dito is you have to make sure that the samples that you're going to get is actually a part of that population. So, etong nasa jar, dapat dun ka lang kukuha. Hindi ka kukuha sa ibang jar. Dito lang. So, kung kailangan mo ng 10, just pick 10. Sino yung mapili mo? That is your target population. Next, eto namang pangalawa. This is the systematic sampling. So, again, sabi ko sa inyo kanina, in systematic sampling, mas meron siyang class. Mas meron siyang system or procedure. Mas maayos. So, ililista mo lahat ng pangalan nila, or i-line up mo sila, iayos mo sila. Let's say, okay, after lining up or after making a system, lahat ng meron lang na green, sila lang yung gagawin kong participants or yung kukunin kong participants. O kaya lahat ng merong X. O kaya lahat ng merong may negative sign, yun lang yung kukuhanin ko. So, another example is, kunwari, you need 10 participants out of 100. Okay, every one na tumapat sa number 3, yun yung kukunin ko. So, that's your clue word with systematic sampling. Meron siyang term na every 6, every 9th. So, meron siyang specifier. And the number 3 is the stratified sampling. Stratified sampling, like what I've told you in the previous slide, is basically you have to make sure that you get representatives from all the subsets or strata. Like this one, strata 1, strata 2, and then strata 3. And it doesn't matter how many representatives are you going to get as long as you have at least one. Like here, in 1, 10, and 12, you get only 10. In 3, 5, 9, dito sa gray area, you only get 5. But in strata number 2, you get 2, which is 2 and 8. So, we have representative for all the groups. It doesn't matter kung gaano siya karami or hindi. Next. Meron pa tayong fourth types of probability sampling. This is the cluster sampling. A cluster sample is a simple random sample of groups or clusters of elements. This method is useful when it is difficult or costly to develop a complete list of the population members, or when the population elements are widely dispersed geographically. For example, you really wanted to know how many Filipinos are infected by COVID-19. So instead of making a list from the population of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, because it's costly, magkakalayo yung mga island natin sa isa't isa. So you're just going to use Luzon. Why? Because Luzon, the cities are much closer to one another. Hindi katulad sa Visayas, sa Mindanao, magkakahiwalay sila. So it's going to give you so much time, or you're going to take time into collecting data information. So in this regard, what are you going to do is that you're just going to get Luzon, since it's part of the Philippines naman, so they are one cluster. But the only thing that you need to consider, or to remember, is that when you choose a cluster, you have to make sure that every individuals on that cluster should be given questionnaire to answer, or should be interviewed. Wala kayong iiwanan. Example, we have 6 clusters. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 clusters. So from this cluster, you have decided that you're going to get the cluster 1 and then the cluster 4. Ayan. So this is clustering, and you have to make sure that lahat ito na nasa cluster 1, you're going to give them questionnaires to answer, or you're going to interview every one of them. So etong dalawang ito is actually a part of this population. So that is cluster sampling. Next, let's go now with non-probability sampling methods. Ito yung sinabi natin kanina na when are we going to use non-probability sampling? No? Number 1, convenience. Here the samples are selected based on the availability. This method is used when the availability of sample is rare and also costly. So if we wanted to know the effect of COVID-19, for example, ba't ka pa pupunta ng Pasig kung ikaw ay nasa Muntinlupa na? So kumuha ka na lang sa Muntinlupa ng iyong respondents. If, for example, you wanted to know the characteristic of psychology students, ba't ka pa pupunta ng ibang school? Meron namang psychology students sa San Beda College, Alabang. So that's for convenience. That is here for comfort. Okay? Next is purposive. This is based on the intention or the purpose of study. Only those elements will be selected from the population which suits the best for the purpose of our study. So in purposive sampling, you already have a specific person in your mind. So the participants that you're going to pursue is actually the one that is your target. For example, your research is about the teenage father. So your purpose is actually to get a teenage father. For example, your study is about early pregnancy. So you have a purpose already. Ang kukunin mo na lang yung mga nabuntis during their teenage years. O dito papasok yung qualifier ka na. The term is qualifier. So you're automatically, lahat ng hindi papasok dun sa qualification mo, hindi mo na yung kukunin, kasi that is not your purpose. Your purpose is to actually to target the population that you wanted on your study. The quota. This type of sampling depends on some preset standard. It selects the representative sample from the population. Proportion of characteristic or trait in sample should be same as population. So it's just like a cluster in a way, but the term that we use in non-probability sampling is actually quota. The difference naman talaga between probability and non-probability sampling class is the sample size. If you're going to remember during our psychological statistics, sinabi ko sa inyo na kapag less 30 yung respondents nyo, hindi na kailangan mag-probability sampling. Diretso na kayo sa non-probability. Kasi we cannot use statistics in less than 30. So, what's the point? Masyado naman siyang madali. And then lastly, we have the snowball. This technique is used in the situations where the population is completely unknown and rare. When you say completely unknown and rare, ibig sabihin it's hard for you to get the respondents. But then again, as a researcher naman, hindi naman kailangan, di ba, laging convenient. For example, gusto mo is yung mga serial killer. Pero wag yun, pangit yun. Ano ba mga rare? Like snowball. Yung mga family na yung family members nila are victims of extrajudicial killing. So, it's really hard to find person na alam mo na naging biktima ng extrajudicial killing. So, what are you going to do is look for a person with that characteristic through referral. At pag nakakita ka na ng isang tao na may ganong characteristic, you ask that person kung may kakilala pa siyang ganon. No, one of the research na in-advise ko from before is that their study is about lesbian parents or lesbian mothers. So, that's an example of referral kasi unusual siya. Hindi mo siya agad makikita. So, when you know one, for example, siya yung tatanungin mo. Tapos, baka may kakilala siya. Siya yung maghanap for you. So, that is the snowball sampling. So, anyway, guys, that ends our slide in non-probability sampling methods. So, ang mangyayari po ngayon, since experimental study naman po tayo, anong gagamitin natin? Probability or non-probability? Of course, class, since experimental study to, we're going to use the probability sampling. No? Kaya lang, again and again, as much as possible, gusto ko sana 30 participants in our experimental study. But in any way, kung hindi naman natin magagawa, let's cross the bridge when we get there. Alamin natin kung paano natin magagawa or matatapos yung inyong research study. So, this sum up our lecture for sampling method. Anyway, class, ito naman ay madali na para sa inyo. But still, if you have some questions about sampling method, you could actually PM me in my Facebook account, yung messenger natin, during your scheduled time with me sa school. Like for example, kung BSP 2A, our schedule is Monday to Wednesday, so you could PM me by 8 to 10. So within the range of our schedule. So it's going to be easy, class. Basta during this month, I'm just going to give you lectures para pag kita-kita natin by April, application na lang. Gawin natin yung ating research. Okay po? Okay, thank you. This and our lecture. Good night. Good morning, night, class.